Now I see we are live. Hi guys. 3 things that you can do today to have a better week. I just practiced one right now. I sang, and welcome everyone. I see that a few people wrote underneath too that is one of the 3 things that you could do as well. And I'm seeing a frozen screen in front of me, so I didn't know whether it was how it was coming through on Facebook or not. And so I find that one of the secrets to thriving in uncertainty is tapping into your creativity and using the disruption for creative response. And none of us was ever taught that. And given these times where there's no precedence in the history of mankind, and as well that everything is being disrupted, that if you let's say with everything being disrupted, our human tendency, we humans don't like change. We resist change. So that when everything is in shift, as it is now, it creates, this, we want to hold on to, we want to comfort our survival. So it makes us, the autopilot is to react in ways that we're programmed in there to keep us safe. But today that does not work, because the things that kept you safe and that helped you thrive in the past, you already did that, and that has come full course through, and now it's time for something new. And in times of birth, in a contraction phase that we're in, it's just really messy. In fact, Michael Beckwith, my dear Michael Beckwith, calls it a birthquake that we're going through right now. And it's so true, isn't it? Do you find yourself totally in flow with disruption or uncertainty? Or how do you follow through when you're in the middle of your week? We're in the middle of the week now, Wednesday. And, some of us have, plans at the beginning of the week. And then the week slips you by, the day slips you by. Does that resound at all? And if so, if you're watching now or afterwards, because my screen is, I don't see any writing or who's on, the screen's frozen. I have a new computer with a life of its own. Anyone have tech challenges? So write in the comments, and I'll see them afterwards as well. And if you're watching afterwards. So what are 3 things that you can do to have your week be better? And Lauren, thank you. And I think Ruthana maybe wrote some beautiful things. Sing. That's why I sang at the beginning. He gave me the idea. And there are 3 things that I'm noticing for myself that as I move into this new year and working on the launch of Emerge, Triumph, and Thrive Through Uncertainty I'm getting such opportunity to thrive through uncertainty in real time, and it's very exciting. So that it would be fun to kind of open up and share with you behind the scenes of what I'm going through and experience what I'm experiencing, and their clients, and give you some chance to tap into your own creativity and continue on your week in another way, so that you can really have a wonderful, wonderful week. So the first thing is stop. Yeah. What? Stop? But I have a to-do list 1,000,000 miles long. I woke up this morning. Have you ever had a book launch before? There's so many moving pieces. It's like, so it is now noon. I actually said I'm coming on earlier because now I have another event, but I want to give these 3 things before I go on there. So it's like back to back. Been on this since 7:30 this morning. But when you are so overwhelmed and have so much going on, and in humanity today, we all do, that's what we're living through. Just taking time to stop, and time doesn't have to be, I don't have time, because we think that's an hour, or the overwhelm. When we're aligned with that, even if not consciously, the mind goes into that dangerous neighborhood, up here, and it feeds on itself and feeds for more overwhelm. And that is such a time destroyer. And then there's this thing, but I won't be on time. I won't get it done. The perfectionism, which is so part of self-sabotage, and how we've all been inculcated that everything needs to fit in this way. And fortunately, having lived in the Middle East for 20-something years, in the Middle East, there's a whole different relationship to time. It's circular, it's feminine. And so you have a plan, and nobody ever expects that plan is going to be exactly followed, because it's known from the get-go that life is just way too dynamic, and things, shift happens. And so there's a flow in the time. So that the first thing that you can do is stop for a moment. There was a woman who came on we had the community event, the community workshop, Our Voices in Vibration, on Monday. That was so wonderful. And there was one of the participants. We had like more than half the people couldn't make it live, so they're participating afterwards. And then there was this one woman who showed up in the 3rd hour, 2/3 done. And she said, when she was first on, she didn't want the camera on. She goes, I'm sorry, I just came home from work and I didn't even plan to be here online, but something's telling me to come on. And it was intimate group, so I didn't, and we're here to be seen. And so she was in her bathrobe and she was willing to come on. Gorgeous woman. And then, we continued on with the processes, which was actually allowing like a pattern interrupt. And then at the end of the workshop, she said, I'm amazed, that I actually stopped. She goes, usually I wouldn't do that, but it was in that split second that I thought, stop and go ahead and, come online. That, an hour later, I'm leaving here energized. I'm leaving here with more energy. That to share with you, that don't be afraid to break your pattern. Be afraid to be comfortable in your old pattern, because that's the thing that's wasting your time. If you want to have a better week, it happened to me this morning. I shaking in my boots. I'm like breaking through old patterns, and I'm like, being called to come out in a much different way and to be of service in a much larger capacity. And I'm meeting up with, my own fears that, like, every step I take, it's bringing up more, more vulnerability. And I literally had no idea this morning how I was going to make it through even to noon. And I have like 2 more hours left of like back-to-back things. And I practiced this stop. And the thing that I did was like feel the fear and surrender it. So that's number one, just stop. And then number two, like when I stopped, the second thing was, okay, so given like accepting where you are instead of, and stop listening to that voice, because the voice so quiet and just yelling, of why I couldn't, why I wouldn't, why I'd fail, why it won't work, why all this stuff. And if I would listen to that, I'd never get out of here. It's like a really dangerous neighborhood. But what I did was feel, instead of reacting or trying to quiet the voice, which is like engaging with it, a politically correct way to engage with my stinking thinking that just can take me down the rabbit hole. Can you relate at all? But what I did instead, I felt the discomfort and I decided to surrender. I decided, like, in that pattern interrupt of the stop, then it felt uncomfortable. But in the midst of the discomfort, there was like this teeny beeny space that allowed me to accept where I am and allow for something new in, but I don't know what that is. And you know what the game changer is? It's like I'm admitting I don't know, and that there's something more, and that I'm just with the willingness that I'm choosing, choosing. That's the second thing, like choose, consciously choose. When you stop, then you consciously choose. And then the third is, I asked myself, well, what's a teeny beeny, the next indicated action, teeny beeny kind thing that I could do for myself today? And the answer was trust. My mentor, I think I've shared about my mentor, dear Bob L, 90, left his body at 98 years old a few months ago. And he would always say to me, Eliana, trust is an action. Whoa. And there's nothing new under the sun except practicing this. It's like so simple. And another thing that we covered this in the workshop, there's an ancient triad. And that what I just explained kind of, it follows that model. And it's so powerful because it takes you out of, that monkey mind and into the present moment. It's like, now that I'm speaking, I feel so much calmer, now I can go on to my next thing. And, because I just shared what I shared, I'll get there at the right time. Is it perfect? No, but it's kind. Yes. Because I'm showing up. Yes. Am I receiving help? Yes. Did I have it all figured out before? No. And you don't need to either. And that's how I showed up to these last few meetings, where if I would have done my usual, they would not have been pretty meetings, but I was inspired. I received from them. And I had, and the 2 meetings were with people I didn't know. But it was, they were really very, very productive, really productive, and they were fun. So 1, stop. 2, pattern interrupt and feel whatever is underneath the pattern interrupt. And then number 3, what teeny beeny kind next step can you take, and ask yourself and listen for the answer. And I can offer you an option of one kind thing. It was so amazing on Monday. And like the majority of people were not online, that I decided to do a second session that we're doing on Monday live, a live bonus Q&A to incorporate this material. So with that, I decided that we're extending the course for another week. There were a lot of people who wrote also that day, which is what's prompting the subject of today's recording. It was all the thing about time. Oh, I'm so sorry. God, it really spoke to me. I really, really wanted to participate, but I couldn't, I couldn't do it. It was wrong timing. So if you're amongst those people, or maybe you didn't even hear about it because we're all inundated these days, you have another opportunity, and everything is recorded. And the material works even not live. So I will put that link after I get off my other meeting. I'll add it in here. But I'm curious to know what are your 3 things that you can do to have a better week for yourself following this triad? What speaks to you most? What's the one thing you're taking from here? And what is one teeny beeny kind thing you can do for yourself today, so that the rest of your week is great? Please do something kind for yourself today, because you really, really deserve it. Bye.